Narrator. Every civilization has a nightmare. For humans, it was once the fear of the unknown. For aliens, it was something much worse. A place. A world. A single planet floating alone in the darkest corner of the galaxy. A planet so terrifying that no alien would even speak its real name out loud. They called it only one thing. The Dark Planet. For over 5 million years, every intelligent species followed the same law. Never fly near the Dark Planet. It didn't matter if they were soldiers, explorers, scientists, or the rulers of entire empires. Everyone obeyed. Because everyone knew the stories. Thousands of warships had disappeared there. Entire colonies had vanished overnight. The strongest alien armies entered its atmosphere. But not a single soldier ever returned. No distress calls. No escape pods. No wreckage. Nothing. It was as if the planet itself. 8 civilizations. Across the galaxy, alien children grew up hearing the same bedtime warning. If your navigation computer ever marks a black planet surrounded by red clouds, turn around. Don't look back. And pray it never noticed you. No one laughed at the story. Because every family had lost someone. A father. A sister. A fleet commander. A scientist. Someone who had gone searching for answers. And never came home. The strangest part wasn't that ships disappeared. It was what happened before they vanished. Every captain reported the same final message. Not from their computers. Not from another ship. But from a voice. Inside their own minds. A cold whisper that said, "You are too late." Then, silence. Forever. As centuries passed, the Dark Planet became more than a forbidden world. It became a legend. Even pirates refused to travel near it. Bounty hunters changed their routes. Smugglers took longer journeys just to avoid seeing it. Some alien religions even believed the planet was alive. A sleeping god. A prison. Or the mouth of something that had existed before the stars themselves. No one knew the truth. Because no one survived long enough to tell it. Then, everything changed. Not because an alien empire became brave. Not because someone built a stronger battleship. Not because new weapons were invented. Everything changed because of one accident. One human. The exploration vessel Ars-7 drifted through an uncharted region of space. It wasn't a warship. It wasn't carrying soldiers. Its mission was simple. Map unknown star systems. Collect scientific data. Return to Earth. Captain Nathan Reed stood on the bridge, staring through the massive front window. Millions of stars stretched endlessly before him. It was beautiful. Peaceful. Exactly the kind of mission he loved. Behind him, his crew laughed while arguing over whose turn it was to cook dinner. Lieutenant Emma Brooks rolled her eyes. "If Jake burns another meal, I'm reporting him." Jake grinned. It wasn't burned. It was extra crispy. The bridge filled with laughter. Nathan smiled. For a moment, everything felt normal. No alarms. No danger. Just another day exploring the universe. Without warning, the ship shook violently. Coffee cups crashed onto the floor. Lights flickered. Every screen turned red. Warning. Unknown gravitational distortion detected. Nathan grabbed the command chair. "Report." Emma's fingers flew across the controls. "I'm losing navigation." Jake shouted from engineering. "The engines aren't responding." Another violent impact threw everyone sideways. Outside the window, space itself began to twist. Stars stretched into impossible lines. A giant wall of black clouds appeared where empty space should have been. Nathan frowned. "Clouds, in space." Emma whispered, "Captain, I've never seen anything like this." The computer suddenly spoke in a calm voice. "Unknown planet detected. Coordinates unavailable. History unavailable. Warning database unavailable." Before anyone could react, every monitor across the bridge went completely black. Then, one sentence slowly appeared in glowing red letters. "Turn back." Jake frowned. "Who sent that?" No signal was received. Emma checked every communication channel. Nobody transmitted anything. Nathan felt something cold crawl up his spine. If no one had sent the message, then who wrote it? The ship continued drifting forward. As the black clouds slowly separated, a planet appeared. No blue oceans. No green forests. No bright cities. Only darkness. Its surface looked almost alive. Black mountains rose like broken teeth. Red lightning flashed silently across the sky. A ring of dark ash circled the planet like a crown. No one on the bridge spoke. The computer suddenly froze. Then, for the first time in human history, an unknown file appeared inside the ship's database. No one had downloaded it. No one had opened a communication channel. Yet it was there. The title read, Galactic Warning. Nathan opened it. A single sentence appeared. If you are reading this, leave immediately. This planet does not kill aliens, it hunts them. The crew looked at each other in complete silence. Jake forced a nervous laugh. Someone has a weird sense of humor. But nobody laughed with him. Because, at that exact moment, something enormous moved beneath the planet's black clouds. Not a ship. Not a mountain. Something. Narrator. Nobody on the bridge moved. Every pair of eyes remained locked on the giant black planet floating outside the ship. Captain Nathan Reed took a slow breath. Emma, scan the surface. Emma activated every long-range sensor the Ars-7 had. The computer worked for several seconds. Then it answered. Scan failed. Emma frowned. She tried again. Nothing. Again. Nothing. It doesn't make sense. The sensors are working. But they can't read the planet. Jake looked over her shoulder. Maybe the atmosphere is blocking the signal. Emma slowly shook her head. No. It feels like... She stopped speaking. Nathan looked at her. Like what? Emma swallowed. Like the planet doesn't want us to see it. Silence filled the bridge. Nobody laughed this time. Suddenly, the entire ship lurched forward. A deafening metallic scream echoed through every corridor. The engines roared at maximum power. But instead of flying away, the ship accelerated toward the planet. Nathan grabbed the controls. Full reverse. Jake yelled from engineering. I'm trying. I have no control. The engines aren't listening. The computer repeated the same warning again and again. Navigation failure. Engine override detected. Unknown external force. Nathan's heart began pounding. Someone, or something, was pulling them in. Outside, the black cloud surrounding the planet slowly opened. For a brief second, the crew saw thousands of enormous skeletons floating in orbit. Some belonged to creatures larger than battleships. Others looked like giant insects with wings wider than cities. Broken alien warships drifted silently between them. Rust covered their armor. Their weapons were still pointed toward the planet. As if they had fired everything they had. And still lost. Jake whispered, "Oh my God." Emma zoomed in. One ship still carried the symbol of an alien empire. The translation computer recognized it instantly. The Karen Dominion. Nathan's eyes widened. The Karens? They're one of the strongest civilizations in the galaxy. Emma nodded silently. There are hundreds of their ships. No. She zoomed out again. There are thousands. Nathan stared through the glass. An entire alien fleet. Destroyed. Without a single sign of battle. No explosions. No craters. No debris field. Just silent corpses drifting forever around the dark planet. The ship entered the atmosphere. Everything changed. The sky turned blood red. Black lightning flashed across the clouds. Rain began falling. But it wasn't water. Tiny black particles covered the windows like ash. Jake checked the external cameras. Captain! You need to see this. Nathan switched to the forward camera. The mountains below were moving. Not collapsing. Moving. Huge cliffs slowly rose and fell. Almost like breathing. Emma whispered, The mountains are alive. Before anyone could answer, the cameras suddenly filled with static. Then every speaker inside the ship came alive. Not with alarms. With whispers. Hundreds of voices. Men. Women. Children. Old. Young. All speaking at once. Some cried. Some laughed. Some screamed. Some begged for help. Nathan covered one ear. What is this? Emma's hands trembled over the keyboard. There are no radio signals. Jake shouted from engineering. The voices aren't coming through the speakers. Nathan looked at him. What do you mean? Jake's face had turned pale. They're inside my head. Then, every voice stopped. Complete silence. A single sentence echoed inside the minds of every crew member. Welcome, humans. The engines exploded. A violent blast shook the ship. Fire raced through the rear corridor. Red emergency lights flashed everywhere. Emma looked at the damage report. We've lost engine 3. Jake's voice echoed through the intercom. We're going down. Nathan didn't hesitate. Emergency landing. Everyone strapped themselves into their seats. Outside, the black forest rushed toward them. The ship slammed into the tops of giant trees. Metal screamed. One wing broke away. The Rs-7 bounced across the ground, carving a massive trench through the black soil before finally crashing into the middle of an endless forest. Everything went dark. Nathan slowly opened his eyes. Smoke filled the cockpit. Sparks rained from broken cables. His ears rang. For several seconds, he couldn't hear anything. Then, one sound. A heartbeat. Not his own. Something much larger. Boom. The ground vibrated. Boom. The walls of the ship trembled. Boom. Nathan looked down. His heartbeat was normal. So whose heartbeat was shaking the entire planet? He forced open the emergency hatch. Cold air rushed inside. The smell hit him first. Wet stone. Burned metal. And something rotten. Something ancient. Nathan stepped onto the black ground. The forest stretched in every direction. Trees over 300 feet tall blocked the sky. Their bark looked almost like black skin. Long roots twisted across the ground like giant snakes. No birds. No insects. No wind. Nothing. The silence was so complete. It almost hurt. One by one, the surviving crew climbed out of the wreckage. Emma looked around slowly. I've never seen a world like this. Jake tried joking again. I officially hate this place. Nobody smiled. Then Sarah, the team's biologist, stopped walking. She knelt beside the soil. What is it? Nathan asked. She didn't answer. Instead, she brushed away the black dust. Beneath it were footprints. Not human. Not animal. Each footprint was almost 4 meters long. Fresh. Deep. And there were hundreds of them. Leading into the forest. And, coming back out. Sarah's voice barely escaped. We're being watched. Nathan slowly lifted his rifle. Every member of the crew did the same. Far away, deep between the black trees, 2 glowing red eyes opened. Then 4. Then 8. Then dozens. No bodies. Only eyes. Watching. Waiting. Not attacking. Yet, Nathan tightened his grip on the rifle. He had explored dozens of worlds. Faced pirates. Survived wars. Escaped asteroid fields. But standing there, on the dark planet, for the first time in his life, Captain Nathan Reed felt something he had almost forgotten. Fear. Nobody moved. The glowing red eyes remained hidden between the giant black trees. There were dozens of them. Maybe hundreds. They never blinked. They simply watched. Captain Nathan Reed slowly raised one hand. Nobody fire. Jake looked at him in disbelief. Are you serious? There could be an army out there. Nathan never looked away from the forest. And we don't even know what we're shooting at. For nearly 30 seconds, nothing happened. Then, one by one, the glowing eyes disappeared into the darkness. As if they had never been there. Only silence remained. Emma finally whispered, "What were those things?" Nobody answered. Because nobody knew. Nathan turned toward the wrecked Rs-7. "Our first priority is survival. We repair the ship. We establish a safe perimeter. And we leave this planet as fast as possible." The crew immediately got to work. Jake and 2 engineers searched the damaged engines. Emma checked the communications array. Dr. Sarah collected soil and plant samples. Nathan and the security team secured the crash site. At least, that was the plan. Because after only 10 minutes, everything started going wrong. Jake crawled out from beneath the engine compartment. His face was pale. "We're trapped." Nathan walked over. "What happened?" Jake wiped the black dust from his hands. "The engines aren't destroyed. They're empty." Nathan frowned. "What do you mean empty?" Jake pointed toward the open engine housing. "The reactor cores are gone." Emma looked confused. "That's impossible. The crash couldn't eject both reactor cores." Jake slowly nodded. "I know. Something removed them." A cold silence spread through the group. Those reactor cores each weighed nearly 2 tons. No animal could carry them away. Which meant something intelligent had taken them. Sarah suddenly called out, "Captain!" Everyone rushed toward her. She was standing beside one of the giant trees. At first, Nathan didn't understand what she was looking at. Then he saw it. The tree wasn't made of wood. It only looked like wood. Its surface was covered with thousands of tiny black veins. They pulsed slowly, like blood vessels. Sarah carefully reached toward it. Nathan grabbed her arm. "Don't." She nodded and stepped back. The entire tree shivered. Not because of wind. There was no wind. The tree had moved on its own. Jake quietly muttered, "I don't think this is a forest." Emma stared at the endless black landscape. "I think the whole planet is alive." The words had barely left her mouth when every tree around them stopped moving. Completely. Absolute silence. Nathan's instinct screamed. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Then, a distant scream echoed through the forest. It lasted only 2 seconds. A terrified scream. Human. Jake's face turned white. That came from Miller. Miller had been checking the emergency supply crates only 100 yards away. Nathan immediately grabbed his rifle. "Move!" The team sprinted through the trees. "Miller!" No answer. "Miller!" Only silence. Then they found him. Oh! What was left behind? His rifle lay on the ground. Still loaded. His flashlight was still on. His helmet had been crushed flat. But there was no body, no blood, no drag marks. Nothing. It was as if Miller had simply disappeared into thin air. Emma stared at the empty clearing. How can someone vanish without leaving a single mark? Nobody had an answer. Nathan slowly picked up the crushed helmet. Something was carved into the metal. 3 words. Not scratched. Not burned. Carved with perfect precision. "Leave this place." Jake whispered. "Who wrote that?" Sarah looked around nervously. "I don't think. It was meant for Miller." Nathan looked at the message again. "No. It was meant for us." The team's radios suddenly burst to life. Static filled every speaker. Then, a voice. "A mayday." Nathan froze. "Miller." The signal crackled. "Captain. It's dark. I can't." Something wet echoed through the transmission. Then Miller screamed. Not in pain. In absolute terror. "It's wearing their faces." The transmission ended instantly. Emma tried reconnecting. Nothing. Only static. Jake swallowed hard. "If he's alive. Where is he?" Nathan slowly looked toward the endless black forest. Somewhere, beyond those trees, Miller was either still alive, or something had just learned how to imitate him. Nathan made his decision. "We're going after him." Jake stared at him. "Captain." We don't even know what's hunting us. Nathan checked the magazine in his rifle. I know. But if Miller's alive, we don't leave him behind. No one argued. Not because they agreed. Because every member of the team knew one thing. If the dark planet could erase a man, without leaving a single drop of blood, then the real nightmare had only just begun. Captain Nathan Reed looked into the endless black forest. Somewhere beyond those trees, Miller had disappeared. Whether he was alive or already dead, no one knew. Nathan switched on the flashlight mounted beneath his rifle. A thin beam of white light cut through the darkness. It barely reached 20 feet before the shadows swallowed it. Emma looked at her scanner again. It's useless. The signal keeps changing. Jake frowned. Changing? Emma nodded. It's like the forest is moving around us. Nathan took a slow breath. We stay together. Nobody walks alone. If you lose sight of the team, shout immediately. Everyone nodded. Then, the 6 survivors stepped into the forest. The deeper they walked, the stranger everything became. The ground felt soft. Almost like walking across living skin. Every few seconds, someone heard footsteps behind them. But whenever they turned around, nothing was there. Only giant black trees. Watching. Waiting. Sarah stopped beside one of the twisted roots. Captain. Nathan walked over. What is it? She pointed toward the ground. There were footprints again. Huge. Fresh. But something was different. Nathan knelt beside them. The prints ended in the middle of the path. No return marks. No second set of tracks. Whatever had made them had simply vanished. Jake stared at the empty ground. That's impossible. Nathan quietly answered. Not on this planet. Minutes later, Emma suddenly raised her hand. Wait. Everyone froze. Do you hear that? At first, there was nothing. Then, a sound. Soft. Familiar. Laughter. Jake's face lit up. Miller. The laughter echoed again. It came from somewhere ahead. Miller. Nathan called. No answer. Only another laugh. This time, it sounded weaker. As if someone was trying very hard to sound human. Nathan's expression changed. Something's wrong. Jake looked confused. What do you mean? Nathan kept staring into the darkness. Miller doesn't laugh like that. The entire team fell silent. The laughter came again. Exactly the same. Exactly the same rhythm. Exactly the same pause. It wasn't natural. It sounded repeated, like a recording. Then it stopped. Forever. The forest grew darker. Black fog slowly rolled across the ground. Visibility dropped to only a few feet. Emma whispered, I can't see the others. Nathan immediately shouted. Everyone say your name. Nathan. Emma. Jake. Sarah. Lewis. Silence. Nathan frowned. Where's Daniel? Everyone turned around. Daniel was gone. Only seconds ago, he had been walking beside Sarah. Now, there was nothing. His flashlight lay on the ground. Still shining. Nathan grabbed it. The light pointed toward a nearby tree. Something had been carved into its bark. Not with a knife. With claws. You should have turned back. Jake stepped backward. This place. It's talking to us. A sudden crack echoed above them. Nathan looked up. His blood ran cold. High among the branches, shapes were moving. Huge. Silent. 1, 2, 5, 10. None of them made a sound. Only their glowing red eyes reflected the flashlight beams. They weren't climbing. They were crawling. Upside down. Like giant spiders. Watching every movement the humans made. Sarah whispered. They've been following us. The whole time. No one fired. No one breathed. The creatures didn't attack. They simply watched. Studied. Waited. Then, one of them slowly tilted its head. Almost like it was curious. Nathan felt something deep inside him. It wasn't the fear of being hunted. It was the terrifying realization that they weren't prey yet. They were being examined, judged. Without warning, a loud metallic sound echoed through the forest. Clang! Everyone spun around. Jake had dropped a wrench from his backpack. The tool struck a rock. The noise echoed for miles. The forest became silent. Too silent. Every glowing pair of eyes disappeared at once. Nathan shouted, "Run!" The ground exploded beneath them. Massive black roots burst from the earth like giant snakes. One wrapped around Lewis's leg. He screamed. The root pulled him toward the darkness. Nathan grabbed Lewis's arm. Jake joined him. Together they pulled with everything they had. The root tightened. Lewis cried out in pain. Then, Nathan raised his rifle. 3 controlled shots. Bang! 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 The bullets struck the root. For the first time, the forest reacted. A deep roar echoed across the entire planet. Not from one creature. From everywhere. The root instantly released Lewis. It vanished beneath the ground. Nathan stared at the hole. Black liquid slowly bubbled to the surface. It wasn't blood. It looked thicker. Almost alive. Emma's voice shook. The forest felt that. Nathan looked into the darkness. No. It learned something. It learned that humans fight back. Far away, a single monstrous roar rolled across the dark planet. Not angry. Not frightened. Interested. As if something ancient had finally found an opponent worth watching. No one spoke. The terrifying roar echoed across the dark planet for nearly a full minute. Then, everything became silent again. Captain Nathan Reed slowly lowered his rifle. The strange black root had disappeared beneath the ground. Only the deep hole remained. Lewis sat on the cold earth, breathing heavily. His leg was covered in dark bruises where the root had wrapped around him. Dr. Sarah quickly examined the wound. It didn't break the bone. She looked confused. It only grabbed him. Nathan looked toward the endless forest, as if it wanted to take him alive. Those words sent a chill through everyone. If the creatures wanted food, why hadn't they killed Lewis? Why had they tried to drag him away? Jake suddenly looked around. Captain! Nathan turned. Jake's face had gone pale. I think we're being watched again. Everyone raised their rifles. The forest looked empty. No glowing eyes. No movement. Nothing. Yet every member of the team felt exactly the same thing. Someone, or something, was following them. Quietly. Patiently. Waiting for the perfect moment. Emma checked her scanner again. For the first time since the crash, a signal appeared. Very weak. Very old. She stared at the screen. I found something. Nathan walked over. What is it? I don't know. It's artificial. It isn't coming from our ship. She zoomed in. The signal originated nearly 3 kilometers deeper into the forest. Jake frowned. Another ship. Emma slowly shook her head. No. It's much older. So old. I don't think it's human. Nathan looked toward the dark trees. If someone built something here, they may have left answers. The team moved carefully through the forest. Hours passed. The black trees slowly became thinner. The air felt colder. A strange gray mist covered the ground. Then, Sarah suddenly stopped walking. Her eyes widened. Oh! My God! The others rushed forward. What they saw made every one of them freeze. Hidden beneath the fog stood the remains of an enormous alien city. Towering black buildings stretched toward the sky. Massive bridges connected structures taller than mountains. Strange statues lined the empty streets. Everything was broken. Everything was silent. It looked as though a great civilization had vanished. In a single day, Nathan slowly walked through the ruins. Not a single skeleton could be seen. Not one. Thousands of buildings. Millions of people must have lived here. Yet, There were no bodies. No graves. Nothing. Jake whispered. Where did everyone go? Nobody answered. Because nobody wanted to imagine the answer. Emma knelt beside a giant metal doorway. She brushed away centuries of black dust. An alien symbol appeared. The translation computer inside her wrist device beeped. Processing. Processing. Then, the words appeared. Colony 7. Sarah looked around the city. This wasn't an outpost. It was a home. Nathan quietly nodded. Whatever happened here? It happened to an entire civilization. They continued walking. Suddenly, Jake pointed ahead. There! Half buried beneath fallen stone, lay something enormous. The team rushed toward it. It was an alien spacecraft. Nearly half a kilometer long. Its hull had been ripped open as though something unimaginably powerful had torn it apart with bare hands. The strange part? Its weapons were still fully loaded. Its engines showed no sign of failure. There were no impact craters. No signs of battle. The ship hadn't crashed. It had been opened. Nathan climbed inside through the massive tear in the hull. The air smelled ancient. Dust covered every surface. Emergency lights still blinked faintly after millions of years. Jake stared in disbelief. How is this ship still receiving power? Emma checked the reactor. It isn't. Nathan looked at her. Then what's powering the lights? Before Emma could answer, every light inside the ship turned off. Complete darkness. Then, one by one, red emergency lights flickered back on. A deep mechanical voice echoed through the empty corridors. Life forms detected. The crew immediately raised their rifles. The ancient voice continued. Scanning species. Silence. Then, for the first time in millions of years, the ship recognized a living race. Species identified. A long pause followed, as if the ancient computer couldn't believe what it had found. Then it finally spoke. Human. The lights throughout the ship suddenly became bright white. A massive sealed door at the end of the corridor slowly unlocked by itself. Hiss. Cold air rushed out. Beyond the opening, a room that had remained closed for millions of years was waiting. The heavy metal door slid open with a long, echoing hiss. Cold air rushed out of the ancient chamber. It carried no smell. No dust. No decay. It was as if the room had been sealed only yesterday. Captain Nathan Reed stepped inside first. His rifle swept slowly from left to right. Nothing moved. The rest of the team followed behind him. Emma stopped in the center of the chamber. This doesn't make any sense. Nathan looked around. The room was enormous. Smooth black walls curved upward until they disappeared into darkness. Thin blue lights glowed beneath the floor like rivers of energy. In the middle of the chamber stood a massive crystal nearly 20 feet tall. It pulsed slowly, like a giant heartbeat. Boom! A blue wave of light spread across the room. Boom! Another pulse. Sarah stared at it. It isn't a crystal. It's producing energy. Jake frowned. After millions of years. Emma checked her scanner. The numbers on the screen flashed wildly. I've never seen readings like this. This thing should be dead. But it isn't. Nathan carefully walked toward a circular control console beside the crystal. The strange symbols covering its surface suddenly lit up. Without anyone touching it, Emma stepped back. It activated by itself. The crystal released another pulse. This time, a beam of white light shot upward. Tiny particles filled the air. Slowly, a hologram began taking shape. The figure of a tall alien commander appeared before them. His silver armor was cracked. One side of his face was covered in blood. Behind him, an entire city burned beneath a black sky. Explosions lit the horizon. The alien looked directly toward them. Then he spoke. His voice was calm, but filled with exhaustion. If this recording has been activated, then another civilization has reached the dark planet. The crew stood frozen. The alien continued. My name is Commander Vila. Supreme Fleet of the Archon Dominion. Emma whispered. The Archon Dominion. Jake looked at her. You know them? She nodded slowly. They disappeared over 3 million years ago. Nathan looked back at the hologram. The commander lowered his head. We believed fear was a weakness. We believed our technology made us unstoppable. Images appeared around the hologram. Thousands of giant warships entered the atmosphere. Laser cannons fired continuously. The ground disappeared beneath endless explosions. Then, everything changed. The darkness itself moved. Entire mountains opened. Gigantic shadows rose from beneath the planet. One after another, the warships vanished. Not destroyed. Simply gone. Jake whispered. What are those things? The recording continued. We brought 12,000 warships. Only one survived long enough to record this message. The hologram flickered. Commander Vila looked older. More tired. His voice almost broke. Do not fight them. Do not chase them. Do not follow the voices. Sarah looked at Nathan. The voices. Nathan nodded silently. They had heard them too. Suddenly, the hologram changed. A map of the underground tunnels beneath the planet appeared. Hundreds of glowing red points moved beneath the surface. Emma stared in horror. They are underground. Jake counted silently. There are hundreds. Emma slowly shook her head. No. There are thousands. The commander spoke one final warning. The creatures you see are not the rulers of this world. Everyone froze. Commander Vila closed his eyes. They are only the guardians. A heavy silence filled the chamber. If those nightmare creatures were only guards, then what exactly were they protecting? Without warning, every light inside the room turned red. A loud alarm echoed through the chamber. Warning! Warning! External movement detected. Nathan immediately raised his rifle. What was that? Emma looked at the scanner. Her face turned completely pale. It can't be. Nathan stepped beside her. What? She slowly turned the screen toward him. One massive life sign stood just outside the building. Height: over 20 feet. Heartbeat: extremely powerful. Distance: 23 feet. Jake whispered. It's right outside. Nobody breathed. Nobody moved. Then, a slow, heavy footstep echoed through the ruins. Thud. Dust fell from the ceiling. Another step. Thud. The walls trembled. Sarah quietly switched off her flashlight. The entire team stood in complete darkness. Only the red emergency lights remained. Nathan slowly walked toward a broken section of the wall. He carefully looked outside. His heart almost stopped. Standing in the middle of the ruined city was the creature. It stood over 20 feet tall. Its body was covered in black armor-like skin that reflected no light. Four muscular arms hung at its sides. Each hand ended in claws longer than swords. Deep red cracks glowed beneath its skin like rivers of lava. Its eyes burned with a crimson light. The creature slowly lifted its head. Then, it looked directly at Nathan. Not toward the building. Not toward the doorway. Straight into Nathan's eyes. For several long seconds, neither one moved. Then the impossible happened. The monster tilted its head, almost as if it was studying him. Not with anger. Not with hunger. With curiosity. Nathan barely breathed. It knows. He whispered. It knows we're here. The creature's mouth slowly opened. Rows of razor-sharp teeth appeared. It wasn't roaring. It wasn't attacking. It was smiling. And somewhere deep beneath the city, a second heartbeat answered the first. Boom. Nathan's blood ran cold. There wasn't just one monster. Something far larger had just awakened. Final chapter, The Heart of the Dark Planet. Narrator. Nathan never looked away from the creature. It stood in the ruins, smiling without moving. Then, slowly, it stepped aside. Behind it, the broken ground cracked open. A staircase of black stone rose from beneath the city. The creature lowered its head. It was not challenging the humans. It was inviting them. Emma whispered, "It's leading us somewhere." Nathan tightened his grip on his rifle. "Then we find out why." The team descended into the darkness. The deeper they walked, the warmer the air became. The walls pulsed with a faint red glow. It looked less like a cave, and more like the inside of a living creature. Lewis touched one of the walls. It moved beneath his hand. He quickly pulled away. "This planet. It isn't just alive. It's awake." After nearly an hour, the tunnel opened into a chamber so enormous that its ceiling disappeared into darkness. In the center floated a giant sphere of black crystal. Thousands of glowing veins connected it to the walls. Every heartbeat they had heard came from it. Boom! The entire chamber shook. Boom! Emma stared in disbelief. "That's the source. The whole planet is connected to it." Around the chamber lay the remains of countless alien civilizations. Broken armor, ancient weapons, destroyed banners. The final battlefield of thousands of races. A hologram suddenly appeared. Commander Vila stood before them once more. His final recording had only one sentence. "If you have reached the heart, then you are the first civilization to survive this long." The recording flickered. "We believed destroying the heart would kill the planet. We were wrong." Nathan frowned. "What does that mean?" The hologram answered. "The heart cannot be destroyed. It must choose to stop." The recording ended forever. Before anyone could speak, the chamber became silent. Every glowing vein stopped moving. Then, a voice echoed through the darkness. Deep, ancient, powerful. I have watched civilizations for millions of years. I watched them arrive with pride. I watched them attack without understanding. I watched them destroy each other. You are different. The darkness gathered before them. It formed into a gigantic figure with burning crimson eyes. Not a monster. Not an animal. Something far older. The ancient king. It looked at Nathan. "Human. Why have you come?" Nathan lowered his weapon. "We didn't come to conquer. We crashed." The ancient king remained silent. Nathan continued. "But if you're killing innocent people, I'm going to stop you." For the first time, the ancient being laughed. "You believe you can defeat me?" Nathan answered without hesitation. "No. But I'll try." The chamber exploded with movement. The ancient king attacked. Nathan rolled aside as claws shattered the stone beneath him. Jake opened fire. Emma overloaded the energy crystal. Sarah pulled the wounded Lewis to safety. The battle shook the entire planet. Every bullet slowed the creature, but none could kill it. Then Emma shouted, "Nathan! The heart isn't a weapon. It's a prison." Nathan looked at the crystal. Inside, he saw them. Millions of glowing lights. Alien souls. Every civilization the planet had ever consumed. The heart wasn't feeding on them. It was protecting them. The ancient king had not been hunting civilizations out of hatred. He had been imprisoning every race that came to destroy him. Nathan slowly lowered his rifle. "You don't want war." The ancient king stopped attacking. For the first time in millions of years, silence filled the chamber. Nathan stepped toward the heart. "If I free them, will you end this?" The ancient being closed its eyes. "I have waited for someone to ask." Emma rerouted the remaining power from the Rs-7's emergency reactor. The crystal began glowing brighter. Cracks spread across its surface. The chamber trembled. One final pulse echoed across the planet. Then, the crystal shattered. Millions of lights rushed into the sky like a river of stars. Across the galaxy, ancient alien worlds suddenly lit up. The lost civilizations were finally free. The black cloud surrounding the dark planet disappeared. The forests became still. The red lightning vanished. The endless whispers fell silent. The ancient king looked at Nathan one last time. "You have given me something no empire ever offered. Peace." Its enormous body slowly dissolved into light. The glowing veins faded. The heartbeat stopped. For the first time in 5 million years. The dark planet was quiet. Months later, Nathan and the survivors returned to Earth. No one believed their story at first. Until alien ships began arriving. Not for war. For gratitude. The greatest empires in the galaxy honored humanity with a title no species had ever received. The Peacebringers. They asked Nathan one question. What weapon defeated the dark planet? Nathan smiled. It wasn't a weapon. It was a choice. Narrator. The galaxy feared the dark planet for millions of years. They believed its greatest power was death. They were wrong. Its greatest power was fear. And the first species brave enough to face that fear was humanity.